My name is Alina Reyes, and I learned the hard way that doing everything right doesn't guarantee a damn thing, especially when you live in the shadow of a sister who knows how to cry at the right moment. I was 17 when the envelope came. Thick, embossed. My name in gold. I had earned it. Not just the scholarship, but the moment itself. Every sleepless night. Every skipped party. Every time I'd said no when others said yes. It was all supposed to lead to this. The Reyes Family Scholarship Award. An elite, privately funded academic prize given to the top graduating senior at my school. Fully funded by a mysterious alumni benefactor, with a full ride to any university of your choice. And I was ranked number 1. I was shaking when I brought the envelope into the kitchen. My mom was feeding my sister Serena's newborn. My dad was flipping through the mail. "I got it," I said, my voice soft and stunned. "The scholarship." Their reactions weren't what I expected. Dad didn't look up. "Oh, that's nice, mija." Serena, lounging on the couch in one of my mom's robes, piped up, "Wait, the Reyes scholarship?" "Yes." Mom frowned. "Honey, are you sure it's addressed to you?" I held it up. "Alina Reyes. That's me, isn't it?" Silence. Then, Serena muttered something under her breath. I caught it. Guess I won't be getting any help now. And just like that, I felt the air shift. Serena had gotten pregnant at 19, dropped out of college, moved back home. Her boyfriend ghosted her within weeks of the baby being born, and somehow, the entire house shifted around her and her child. She hadn't lifted a finger since. But I had done everything I was supposed to. 2 days later, I came home from school and saw the envelope sitting on the table again, only this time, opened. The scholarship packet was missing. I ran to them in my room. I kept every award, every honor cord, every exam result filed and untouched. I knew what that packet had meant. But the rest of it, the acceptance form, the reply instructions, it was all gone. I stormed into the living room. "Where is it?" Mom was on the phone. Dad was outside. Serena was rocking her baby and didn't even look up. "Where's what?" she said. "My scholarship. Forms. The letter. You had no right." Mom cut me off as she ended her call. "Alina, lower your voice." I couldn't. I was already spiraling. "Did you open my mail? That was private. That was mine." Mom walked up to me slowly, like she was about to explain a very simple truth to a very emotional child. We had to make a decision, a family decision. I blinked. "What does that mean?" Dad came in, wiping grease off his hands with an old towel. "Alina, you're smart. You'll get other scholarships. You applied to state schools, right?" I stared at them, suddenly, cold. "What did you do?" Serena looked up then. She didn't look guilty. She looked smug. "She needs it more," Mom said gently, her hand on Serena's shoulder. "She has a child, no income, no options." "You gave it to her?" "She's family." "So am I," Dad stepped in. "You'll understand when you're older." I had never wanted to throw something more in my life. My hands were shaking, but I earned it. "And she needs it," Mom repeated, louder now, like the repetition could make it right. It hit me then, not just what they had done, but how easily they'd done it. Like I wasn't even real. Like I was just an option. A lever they could pull. A seat they could hand off. They had contacted the committee behind my back, told them there had been a mistake, used Serena's last name, Reyes, and claimed she was me. Claimed she was the deserving one. And apparently, the committee accepted it because need-based merit was one of the selection criteria. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I walked to my room, closed the door, and sat on the floor. Didn't cry. Not then. I opened my laptop, and I started a different kind of application. They thought I'd scream, thought I'd throw a tantrum or break something, maybe even beg. But I didn't give them the performance they were expecting. Instead, I made dinner that night, set the table like usual, kissed the baby's forehead while Serena watched me with that same cocky, lazy smirk she always wore when she thought she'd won. Mom even looked relieved, like she assumed I had accepted it, like I was mature enough to understand family sacrifices. They had no idea I was simply preparing to leave. Not out of the house, yet, but out of their narrative. That night I stayed up researching. Not schools, not scholarships. I had already submitted for everything I could on my own. I started digging through university databases, talking to online advisors, finding backdoor contacts for scholarship boards. And I found something. The Reyes Trust had a named tracking code attached to every acceptance. They couldn't just switch the name on paper. The foundation had to approve it, which meant someone signed off, someone high up. And it wasn't just my parents. They'd convinced the committee that Serena was the original candidate and that there was confusion due to a shared last name. There was even a note filed from the school counselor backing the change. Mrs. Kearns. I sat there staring at the screen. Mrs. Kearns had loved Serena. Always said she was charming if unfocused. Said my seriousness made me come across as cold. I remembered the day she pulled me out of class to talk about empathy after Serena's baby was born. Told me to stop sounding so bitter when I brought up missed deadlines or unfair grading. I wasn't cold. I was just tired of being invisible. At school, the change became obvious. One morning, as I passed through the main hallway, I noticed a new bulletin board by the counselor's office, scholarship recipient spotlight. There, pinned dead center, was Serena's face. A picture she must have taken from my senior photo day, hair curled, borrowed sweater, but unmistakably her. The words under it made my jaw lock. Serena Reyes. For resilience, perseverance, and grace under pressure. The 2024 Reyes Family Scholar. I stood there, gripping my books until my knuckles turned white. No one around me even noticed. Not the teachers walking past. Not the students laughing in clusters. I was the ghost in the hallway of my own life. Until Ethan Chang stopped next to me. He squinted. Wait, isn't that your scholarship? My mouth felt like sandpaper. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But something in me shifted. Not grief, not even rage. Strategy. I spent the next 2 weeks doing 3 things. Collecting every single digital and physical document proving my qualifications. I made copies of my academic records, recommendation letters, even recordings of Zoom calls with the foundation liaison who had originally contacted me. Quietly visiting the admissions office of Briarwell University, one of the private schools, that had offered me a conditional place. I met with the dean's assistant. I told her what happened, and she gave me a name, Dr. Meredith Jane, the private trust advisor for the Reyes Family Foundation. sitting through every family dinner like I was fine. Serena, meanwhile, was already shopping for college gear. Online. Ordering hoodies. Asking Mom if she could take the SUV when school starts. And all the while I kept smiling, taking out the trash, playing the role of the good daughter who was so understanding of her sister's needs. They never noticed that I stopped calling my friends, that I was recording everything, that I had already contacted a journalist. The final crack came when I was called into the principal's office. Mrs. Kearns was waiting. She smiled like everything was normal. "I just wanted to check in," she said. "It's been a tough few weeks. I hope you're adjusting well." Adjusting to having my name stolen. My future handed off like a spare pair of shoes. "I'm fine," I said. "Actually, I wanted to thank you." That threw her off. "For what, dear?" "For helping my sister. She really needed that scholarship, and you really went out of your way to make it happen." I watched her eyes narrow. Just a little, like she knew I knew. She cleared her throat. "We all just want what's best for our students." "I know," I smiled sweetly. "So do I." "So..." She offered me a tight nod and stood to open the door. But before I left, I turned back. "Hey, Mrs. Kearns?" "Yes?" "You might want to check your email. I CC'd the Reyes Foundation about the clerical error. Just wanted to make sure they had all the context, since you vouched for it and all." Her face went still. It was the first time I saw her pale. I walked out of that office standing taller than I had in months. Let them squirm. This wasn't over. The house was quiet the evening I sent the email. I timed it intentionally. 8:47 p.m. Late enough to make them read it with a creeping unease before bed. Early enough to ensure the Foundation's legal and PR teams would wake up to it the next morning. Subject line: Scholarship misappropriation. Urgent correction. Regarding award recipient identity. I laid it out fact by fact. My name. My GPA, test scores, and extracurriculars. The initial communication from the Foundation, which I had screenshotted. The switch in recipient. The unethical involvement of my school counselor. My parents' direct interference. And then I attached the photo from the bulletin board. The one of Serena under my name and my award. Just enough to plant seeds. I didn't ask for the scholarship back. I asked for an investigation. The fallout didn't hit immediately. It brewed. At home, things got louder. Serena argued with Mom about whether to order her textbooks early or wait until they send the funds. Dad kept snapping about car maintenance. The air was tense, but not in a way they could explain. They didn't know the storm was already in motion. I did. It hit 3 days later. I was home when the call came. I recognized the voice. It was the school's principal, Mr. Henley. He didn't ask for my parents. He asked for me. "Alina," he said, voice hushed. "Dr. Jane from the Reyes Foundation is flying in. Tomorrow. We're arranging a special meeting. In the boardroom. They received your email." My heart didn't jump. It stayed ice-cold steady. "I understand." "What time?" 10 a.m. sharp. I heard murmurs behind him. Tension. Whispering. He added, "Please, bring all your documentation." I already had it printed, organized in a binder with color-coded tabs, labeled Truth. That night, I said nothing. I watched as Serena passed the baby to Mom and laughed about college move-in ideas with her phone in hand. She had no clue. I went to bed early. I wore black the next morning. Not as drama, just clarity. I was done trying to blend in. The boardroom felt cold when I walked in. Oak table, leather chairs. Serena wasn't there. This wasn't for her. Mrs. Kearns was. So was the principal, a legal advisor from the school district, and at the head of the table, Dr. Meredith Jane Elegant, composed, sharp eyes behind silver-framed glasses. She didn't smile when she looked at me. Alina Reyes? Yes. She nodded at the seat across from her. Let's begin. What followed was an hour-long unraveling of lies. Mrs. Kearns tried to explain away the confusion, said there had been a communication mix-up and two similar profiles, and urgency due to Serena's family needs. Dr. Jane raised an eyebrow. So you submitted altered documentation on behalf of a different student using this student's credentials, Mrs. Kearns stammered. It wasn't altered, just redirected. Dr. Jane held up the original submission packet, with Alina's signature, essay, and transcripts. Silence. Mr. Henley sat pale as stone. Then I spoke. Quietly. If I had made a mistake, I would have owned it. But they made the mistake, and instead of fixing it, they buried me. Dr. Jane didn't nod. She just turned to the legal rep. We'll be issuing a correction, immediate revocation of Serena Reyes's funding, and I'll be speaking directly with the donor regarding potential legal action for fraud. Mrs. Kearns opened her mouth. Wait, you can't. She has a baby. She also has no credentials, Dr. Jane snapped. And your school misrepresented a student. Do not mistake empathy for stupidity. That moment will stay in my bones forever. I walked out of that boardroom weightless. I didn't go home. I walked to the nearby cafe, ordered a coffee, sat alone and let the sun warm my skin through the window. And while I sat there, sipping in silence, I got a call. From Serena. I let it ring. Then, curious, I answered. Her voice cracked the moment I said hello. They're taking it back, that you told them lies. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I told them the truth. She went quiet. I added, you could have asked me for help, but you stole. That's not need. That's theft. She started to cry. What am I supposed to do now? I didn't answer, because that was never my responsibility. The news hit our school like a small scandal, not loud, but sharp. Whispers in the hallway. A quiet takedown. The scholarship spotlight bulletin disappeared the next morning. The toy wall was bare like it had never existed. Mrs. Kearns was on leave. That's what the front office told students. But I knew the truth. She had been removed. The Reyes Foundation's legal team had formally requested a disciplinary hearing with the school board. Ethics violations, document tampering, misrepresentation of a protected award. I didn't smile about it. I didn't need to. There's a different kind of satisfaction when justice happens without you having to scream for it. But things at home, that was a different battlefield. The first sign of fallout came from Mom. She stood at my door the night after the meeting, knocking softly. I didn't say anything at first, just opened the door and stepped aside. She looked tired. Not angry, not proud, just aged. Like the mask had cracked and the woman underneath didn't know how to speak to the daughter she'd wronged. Your sister's very upset, she said. I didn't answer. She said you humiliated her, that you made her look like a thief. I looked at her straight. She is a thief. Mom flinched like I'd slapped her. You don't understand, Alina, she whispered. She's struggling. I stepped forward, voice low and deliberate. You made a choice. You chose to reward failure over discipline, laziness over effort. You didn't just betray me, you erased me. She started to cry. I didn't. Do you have any idea what it felt like? I continued. To watch the thing I bled for handed to someone else just because she knew how to play victim? Her shoulders shook. We thought you'd bounce back. You always do. That stung more than I expected. I'd made it too easy to forget me. Too quiet. Too resilient. I'm not your backup plan, I said, voice calm but cold. I'm not your safety net. I'm sorry, she breathed. I nodded, but forgiveness wasn't free. The next day, Serena knocked on my door. For the first time in years, she looked stripped of all smugness. The perfect blowout hair was messy, her sweatshirt had a tear at the shoulder, and she was holding the baby in one arm like a shield. I know you hate me, she said. I looked at her, said nothing. I just wanted help. I didn't think it would go this far. You knew what you were doing. Her eyes welled up. I was desperate. You weren't, I said. You were comfortable. You knew they'd clean up your mess. She stepped inside, just barely. Her eyes dropped to the floor. They cut me off, the foundation. Said there might be legal action. I can't even apply to the same schools anymore. I waited. No excuses, no promises, just silence. I'm sorry, she finally said. I didn't mean to ruin your future. You didn't, I replied. You just reminded me I don't belong here anymore. And then I turned and walked away. Later that week, I received an official reinstatement letter from the Reyes Foundation, along with something else, a direct acceptance offer to Briarwell University, an upgraded scholarship package, and a personal note from Dr. Jane. For students who not only earn their place, but protect it, we look forward to your brilliance. The house felt smaller after that. Mom tiptoed around me. Dad avoided conversation altogether. Serena mostly stayed in her room. And for the first time in my life, I let the distance between us grow without trying to fix it, because this wasn't mine to fix. I packed in silence, labeled each box, folded each shirt, removed every trace of myself from the house that never really saw me. And then one morning, before the sun had even warmed the windows, I loaded everything into the Uber and didn't say goodbye. Only my little niece, perched on the couch in a diaper and a grin, waved at me from behind her toy giraffe. I waved back. She didn't know what they'd done. And maybe, when she grows up, she'll hear the real version. Maybe she'll know that her aunt left not out of bitterness, but peace. Because this wasn't revenge. This was removal. Briarwell was colder than home, literally and figuratively. The fall air bit sharper, the people moved faster, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was walking into a room carrying everyone else's weight. No one knew me as Serena's sister. No one cared that I wasn't bubbly or charming. Professors didn't coddle me or dismiss me. And the scholarship office treated me like someone who earned her spot, because I did. But healing isn't instant, and clean slates don't erase scars. I still checked my phone more than I wanted to admit. I still woke up expecting to hear my dad's truck leaving, or Serena's baby crying down the hall. Instead, I heard the hum of late-night printers, distant guitar chords from dorm windows, life that wasn't wrapped around someone else's demands, and, still, I felt hollow sometimes, like I had fought so hard to get here, but I didn't know what to do once I'd arrived. My roommate Neha was the first to notice. She was pre-med, cluttered, kind in a chaotic way. She didn't pry at first, but she saw things. "You never talk about your family," she said one night quietly, over ramen steam. I shrugged. "Not much to say." She nodded. "Same." It wasn't until our third week that I told her the story. Not the polished courtroom version, the real one. What it felt like to watch your own name be erased. To walk through the ruins of your dreams while everyone clapped for someone else wearing your clothes. When I finished, she didn't look shocked. She looked furious. Do they even realize what they did to you? They think they were helping. Her, I said softly. They think I'm just bitter. Neha leaned back. You're not bitter. You're surviving. There's a difference. That word stuck with me. Surviving. I had done that for too long. 3 months into school, I found my rhythm. My classes were challenging, but I excelled. My professors knew my name for the right reasons. I joined the campus journalism collective, and for the first time, I wrote something raw and anonymous about academic theft. It went viral within our community. I didn't attach my name. I didn't need to. But someone from the Reyes Foundation emailed me after reading it. We've forwarded your article internally. It's being used in ethics training for our new selection board members. It didn't fix the past, but it meant something. Then, one afternoon in December, just before winter break, I saw her name again. Alina Reyes. It popped up in my email. Subject line: You there? My hand froze on the trackpad. I clicked it open. Alina, I'm not going to ask you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know. Mom and Dad aren't talking much lately. The money's tight. They blame each other. I got a part-time job. I'm trying. Sometimes I see your name in things, and it stings. Not because I think you were wrong, but because I remember how small I made you feel. I'm sorry. Again. I don't know if that ever helps. I just hope you're okay, S. I stared at it for a long time. There was no manipulation in the tone, no but to soften the weight of her wrongs. It was the first real thing she'd said to me in years. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. That night I wrote something in my journal. She took what I earned, but she couldn't keep it, and I didn't fight for revenge. I fought for restoration. I am not the collateral. I am the center, and I am no longer asking to be seen. I closed the journal. Outside, snow had started to fall. I opened the window just a crack, letting the chill touch my skin. It didn't hurt anymore. It just reminded me. I was finally somewhere that didn't require me to shrink. The spring brought sunlight through the tall windows of Briarwell's lecture halls. Everything felt lighter, but I wasn't done growing through the shadows. One morning, I walked past the main campus quad and saw a flyer being taped to the center board. Women of Integrity, a panel of scholarship survivors and fighters. My heart stopped. At the bottom, I saw a name, Dr. Meredith Jane, and next to it, mine. I hadn't agreed to speak. I hadn't even known I was considered. But underneath, in smaller print, it said, featuring Alina Reyes, awarded the Reyes Foundation. Scholarship after exposing award misappropriation and ethical misconduct in academic systems. It felt surreal. Not because they used my name, but because they used the word exposing. For so long, I'd been told I was dramatic, bitter, overreacting. But now, I was being positioned not as a problem, but as a case study in justice. Still, I hesitated. What if I stuttered? What if people judged me? What if someone from home showed up? I called Neha that night. "They want me to speak," I said, half expecting her to tell me to turn it down. Instead, she said, "Good. Now everyone else gets to see the version of you I see." What version is that? The one who doesn't need a spotlight, but deserves one anyway. I didn't cry, but I came close. The day of the panel, the auditorium buzzed with energy. Students filled the seats. Faculty lined the back walls. Journalists, donors. A live stream was being run from the corner. I wore a black blazer, the same one I wore the day I walked into that boardroom with Dr. Jane. A quiet symbol. A reminder. When she introduced me, I noticed she didn't call me a victim. She called me a witness and a challenger. I stepped up to the microphone, took a breath, and spoke. 3 years ago, I was told someone else needed my scholarship more than I did, that I could survive without help, that I'd bounce back, because I always did. What they didn't realize was, I was done bouncing. I deserved to stand. They stole what I earned, not because they didn't believe in me, but because I made it look too easy, because I never asked for anything, but I stopped asking, and I started reclaiming. The room held its breath. I didn't flinch. I'm not here today because of a scholarship. I'm here because I refuse to disappear. After the panel, people lined up to talk to me. Some were crying. One girl hugged me and whispered. They did something similar to me, but I thought I was crazy. Another showed me a blog post. She'd written about losing a grant to her cousin after their uncle intervened. It was everywhere. Different names. Same silence. Until now. That night, as I sat alone on the lawn outside the student union, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. We saw the panel online. We didn't realize it was public. I just want you to know. We're proud of you. Another message. From Dad. Guess we screwed up more than we knew. You were always stronger than we let on. No excuses, no requests. Just reality. I didn't reply, but I saved the messages. Not as comfort, but as record. Proof that I was no longer waiting for their permission to succeed. A week later, I received a formal offer from the Reyes Foundation. Would I consider serving as a junior advisor for their new scholarship ethics board? I said, yes. Not for them. For every girl like me who sat quietly while others were handed the prizes they earned. For every student erased. For every sibling sacrificed. I wasn't a secret anymore. I was the example. And I wasn't going anywhere. By the time summer arrived, I no longer flinched when someone said my name over a microphone. I had been featured in 2 student publications, quoted in a national education blog, and interviewed for a mini-documentary the Reyes Foundation was producing on ethical funding. I still wasn't the loudest in the room. I wasn't the girl who naturally smiled in photos. But I had presence now, and this time it was mine. Not borrowed. Not stolen. Not shared with someone who didn't earn it. Mine. Graduation came faster than expected. Not mine, Serena's. She was walking across a stage at the local community college after finally completing 2 terms of night classes in early childhood development. A certificate, not a degree. But still, she had done it. I didn't plan to attend. We hadn't spoken since the winter, but that morning, I got a text from her. You probably won't come. I get it. But if you do, I saved you a seat. I stared at the message for a long time, and then I closed the screen. Because sometimes, forgiveness looks like not replying, but healing. Healing looks like showing up without bitterness. I wore a plain sundress. No makeup. No statement. Just presence. Her ceremony was in the high school gym where I used to tutor freshman math. As I stepped inside, the memories hit me hard, flashing back to the day I saw her picture under my name. The day I stopped expecting fairness, I sat in the back unannounced. No one turned to look. No one knew who I was to her, and that was exactly the way I wanted it. When Serena walked across the stage, her name was called clearly. She didn't look for me, just held her baby in one arm and her certificate in the other. The crowd clapped politely. Mom and Dad were in the front row, tears in their eyes. They didn't see me standing, not until the very end, not until Serena stepped off stage, scanned the crowd, and stopped cold. Our eyes locked. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. But she knew, and that was enough. I left before they could catch up. I didn't want a family photo. I didn't want forced words or tangled apologies. I just wanted that one look, that unspoken moment, the quiet acknowledgement that I had risen beyond them. A month later, I moved into a summer apartment near the Capitol. I had taken an internship with the National Academic Review Board, working under the same woman who once sat across from me in a room full of lies, Dr. Meredith Jane. You came a long way, she said during my first day, handing me a folder. I smiled. Not far enough. She raised an eyebrow. Why not? Because there's still someone out there right now, watching their name being removed from a list they earned. Still someone being told they're resilient enough to survive injustice. She didn't say anything, just nodded once. Then let's make sure they don't get forgotten. That night, I lay in bed in my tiny studio, window cracked, hearing the noise of a city that never pretended to know me. And for the first time since all of this began, I allowed myself a moment of stillness. I hadn't gotten revenge. I had built something better. Proof. Proof that even when the world tries to erase you, you can write yourself back in with permanent ink. 3 years passed. Enough time for a life to change. Enough time for the wound to scar, but not ache. I had earned my degree, with honors. Interned, published, even co-authored a white paper on institutional favoritism. Briarwell offered me a job the moment I walked across the stage. Not a desk role, an advocacy role. I would be the one sitting on scholarship review boards, auditing transparency systems, making sure no other student lost their future to someone else's sob story. I took it, and I moved forward. But some stories come full circle whether you invite them or not. It was a gray afternoon when the email landed in my inbox. Subject: Request for recommendation. Letter. I clicked it. It was from Serena. She was applying to finish a full bachelor's program. Time through the same school I had just graduated from, and she was asking me to write her recommendation. Stared at the blinking cursor for a long time. Attached below was her essay. I didn't have to open it. But I did. I once accepted a scholarship I didn't earn. I let my desperation blind me. I watched someone I love disappear under the weight of my convenience. I don't ask for forgiveness now. I only ask for the chance to show I've changed. My sister didn't just teach me about resilience. She taught me what real integrity looks like. And this time, I want to earn it myself. For the first time in years, I cried. Not because it erased anything, but because it meant something. I didn't say yes immediately. I called her. We hadn't spoken voice to voice since that day at her ceremony. She answered on the third ring. Alina? I got your email. A pause. I didn't think you'd read it. I read it, I said, and I believe you mean it. Another pause. But I'll write the letter, I said slowly. Not because I owe you anything, but because I believe that people should be able to rebuild themselves, if they're willing to do the work. She was quiet for so long. I thought the line dropped. Then she whispered, "Thank you." "You'll still have to stand on your own," I added. "I will." I believed her. Weeks later, I was walking through the Briarwell Quad when a freshman bumped into me. She was short, winded, holding 3 folders and a crumpled coffee sleeve. "Sorry." I was heading to the scholarship office. I smiled, steadying her. "It's all right. First semester?" She nodded. "I'm a Reyes Foundation scholar." I nodded, heart full. She didn't know my story. Didn't need to, because she got there fairly, and I had helped protect that. Months passed. I sat in the audience this time, not as a student, not as a victim, not even as a guest, but as faculty. Briarwell held its winter recognition gala, and I was invited to present an award. They introduced me as Alina Reyes, Director of Student Equity and Review, Scholar and Advocate. And when I stepped onto that stage, I didn't think of Serena, or Mom, or Dad. I thought of myself, 17, holding a letter, invisible in a room full of people who would choose someone else again and again. And then I looked at the room now, standing, clapping, seeing me. No more shadows. No more silence, just me, alive, whole, unstolen.